So we are in Childersburg, Alabama, historic Childersburg, and we've got a historic marker and something else. Dig this historic Childersburg sign over here and a railroad bridge going over. That is really cool. I like that because it's long. What do we got here?
2 miles north of this spot was the Indian town of Cosa, visited by DeSoto July 16, 1540. This stone erected by the National Society of Colonial Dames of America in Alabama in 1936.
Wow. Colonial Dames of America.
Yeah, there were a lot of those societies for women back in the day. Even my mom, she was a member of the Daughters of the British Empire.
Oh, that is awesome.
She's like, you could be a member. I'm like, I'm good. History of Childersburg. Oh, continue from the other side.
Uh-oh. Let's get this in order, y'all.
Childersburg traces its heritage to the Coosa Indian village located in the area. DeSoto, accompanied by 600 men, began his march across North America in June 1539. Traveling from Tampa Bay, Florida, northward through what became the southeastern United States.
Oops, sorry.
Ow!
I bumped her elbow.
DeSoto's expedition began searching for riches. Upon entering the area that would become Alabama, DeSoto and his men marched southward along the Tennessee River to Tally. From Tally, they marched to the banks of the Coosa River.
In the middle of July 1540, the conquistadors reached the empire of the Great Coosa. On July 16th, 1540, the army of the Spaniards entered the town of Coosa, located on the east bank of the river between two creeks, now known as the Talladega and Talasihatchee. Okay, I pronounced that really badly. It's comedy. The young chief of the Coosas greeted DeSoto. For approximately a month, these invaders enjoyed the hospitality of the chief and his tribe, receiving an offer of land to establish a Spanish colony. After offering reasons for not accepting, the Spaniards departed Coosa in August 1540, leaving behind members of the expedition.
Reasons being you didn't have enough gold.
That is true.
The report of the 1939 DeSoto Commission, authorized by the U.S. Congress and chaired by John R. Swanton, irrevocably stated the site of Coca was the area in proximity to the present town of Childersburg. Dr. Walter B. Jones, secretary of the DeSoto Commission and noted Alabama geologist, wrote many articles supporting this conclusion. Beginning with men left by DeSoto and continuing during a period of approximately 250 years, explorers, conquistadors, traders, and pioneer settlers penetrated the vicinity and occupied the area that is today known as Childersburg, Alabama. From settlers came the development of what would become the city of Childersburg.
Very good.
I say conquistador, Brian goes conquistador.
Conquistador. Okay, so this town is really historic. As far as the oldest town in America, it's in kind of a struggle between it and St. Augustine.
Yeah, it's contention.
Contention
It's
because
kind of like Ohio and North Carolina fight over the Wright brothers.
right. St. Augustine had a mayor and all that, and Childersburg didn't, but it's like old. But if you want to see Childersburg, that's it. Like, I would do a little bit more in depth, but that's it. That's it, everybody. That's Childersburg. It's not really that interesting. The cave is the interesting part of Childersburg. Majestic Caverns. Okay.
Yeah, so this is the brochure hut, and it tells you to go past it.
Let's look at this thing real quick. So we got away from the house for a little while to get down the road a piece, and we were at Majestic Caverns in Childersburg, Alabama, next to Sylacauga. DeSoto Caverns, named for the famous Spanish explorer who traveled through this area in 1540. Over its rich history, it offered shelter for Native Indians For centuries, a 2,000-year-old woodland period burial was excavated by archaeologists in the mid-1960s. Interesting. Became the first officially recorded cave in the U.S., 1796, and served as a Confederate gunpowder mining site during the Civil War. One of the largest show caves in the southeastern U.S., the main room of the cavern stands 12 stories high and is as large as a football field. Wow, this is gonna be so cool. The cavern's onyx marble stalagmites and stalactites are among the most concentrated accumulations to be found in America. And one day I'll learn to read.
Except main building in the middle.
Oh, the gift shop has restrooms and a big old water wheel. It's pretty neat up in here. Majestic Caverns.
It's tied around your shoulders.
I'm ready for my Ivy League University. Amazing.
Alright. So at the moment it is a little bit dark in here. I promise we have more lights in here than this, but before we turn all of the lights on, we are actually going to turn all the lights off. Fun. This is something we call total darkness. So this is total darkness, the absence of any light. More or less, this is the natural state of the cave. You can only experience darkness like this in 3 places. It's either deep in the ocean, deep in outer space, or deep underground, like we are right now. If we stayed in the dark like this for 2 weeks straight and then went back outside, we would be totally blind for about 45 minutes. After that, our eyes would readjust and we would be able to see again. Alright, I'm gonna reach over here to my left again. I'm gonna bring all of the lights up for you guys in 3, 2, 1.
Wow.
Alright. So, once upon a time, this entire cave that we're sitting in right here was just a big chunk of limestone rock sitting under the ground. One day, a flood came through and started to hollow all that out. So by the time all the water dried up, there was just a big hole here. Then cracks started to form in the ceiling, and mineral-rich water started dripping in through those cracks, which created all of our formations that you guys can see. So for height, from this really big crack in the ceiling over here to my right, down to the base of the stage, right about where that corner is, that's about 125 feet tall, or the height of a 12-story building. For length, from that wall back there, that's kind of blocked off by the tent, but I promise it's back there, all the way up front to this one where we just came in, that is about 300 feet long, or the length of a football field without the end zones on it. Now those are just the measurements for our main room. The furthest back our cave goes total that we know of is about 12 miles. There are still a few undocumented parts of the cave though, so it might go back further and we just don't know about it yet. We're not walking 12 miles today, I promise. Alright, a little bit of history now. I'm going to tell you briefly about 2 different men. You might have heard of the first one before. His name was Fernando de Soto. He was a Spanish explorer who came down into this cave in the year 1540 looking for gold. This is Alabama. He didn't find any gold here. De Soto was not very happy with not finding his precious gold. Also, he just wasn't the nicest guy in general. So when he came back out of the cave, he decided to pick a fight with the natives that let him in, calling them and their land worthless to him. It escalated very quickly and eventually got so bad, De Soto had to leave Alabama entirely. He went to Florida instead, which the Spanish owned at the time. He left a few of his men behind here to deal with the problems that he caused, and that's exactly what they did. A pair of those men named Robles and Friada patched up the relationship between the Spanish and the natives, and together they established the city of Childersburg, Alabama, which is about 5 miles in that direction. It was built before St. Augustine, but St. Augustine was like properly established and had a mayor and everything before Childersburg did, so it's like in contention for the oldest. Second man I'm going to tell you about, you probably have not heard of before. His name is I.W. Wright. When we stand up in just a minute, we're going to take this path over here directly to the side of the stage. On the right-hand side of that path, there's a little rock on the ground. It's got a couple of lights pointed at it, and there's something carved into it. It says I.W. Wright, 1723. Mr. Isaac William Wright wasn't a fancy explorer or anything like DeSoto was. He was a fur trader. It means he'd make things out of beaver skins, like hats, bags, gloves, all that stuff. Originally, he was stationed in Charleston, South Carolina, but he wasn't making as much money as he wanted, so he decided to take a little trip. He followed something called the Chickasaw Trail, which led from South Carolina to the banks of the Mississippi River to look for more profit down this way. In his travels, he passed by the original natural entrance to this cave, which is not where we came in from. The natural entrance is about 15, 20 feet or so above that. We've got a wall blocking it off from inside, but you can still see it from outside. So you guys can stand up. You can follow me past I.W. Wright's rock. It's on the right side of this little pathway. I'll tell you a little bit about some gunpowder up this way. Is that everybody up from the benches? I can't see right now. Okay. So in 1864, the American Civil War was still in progress. A pair of Confederate soldiers decided to come down here to make some gunpowder. Their names were Joseph Bigby and Colin Carter. I'm going to tell you how they did it. Please don't try this at home, okay? So, they used this wooden thing right over here. Not that exact one, but something like it. It's a replica. That is called a leaching vat. They'd put a layer of hay at the bottom to use as a filter. They'd combine cave soil and vat droppings, which is kind of gross, and put a layer of that in there. Then they'd pour buckets of water on top of everything, which they got from a well that they dug in the back. I can show you later. So they'd put all that inside this leaching vat, seal off the top of it, and just let it sit there for about 2 months. Then they would come back down here, open up a little pipe at the bottom, and drain everything out into this ditch. I mentioned this stuff is a replica. We didn't dig this ditch. This is the original one. This was just here when we got here. So then they'd use buckets to scoop that mixture out of the ditch, and they would boil it until all of the water evaporated out, and the only thing left inside were little pieces called igniter crystals. Then they would crush those up and turn that resulting powder into gunpowder. Now, I do not think this was very smart, but they thought, hey, since we made our gunpowder down here, let's test it down here too. So, if you guys will look above our heads in a few places, you're going to be able to see some of our bigger stalactites are broken off. You see the whites on the bottom? That's where they're broken. We got these two right here above you guys. Over a bit closer to our entrance, there's a couple more. There's one over here behind me, too.
Wow.
Some of the smaller ones around are broken off, too, but that could have happened naturally. In order to break one of these really big ones off 100% naturally, it would take about the force of a magnitude 7 earthquake. And we don't really have those around here, so those are definitely not natural breaks. Some people are upset that the cave is damaged. I just think it means we have a lot of history in here. While we're talking about our formations, really quick, I want to tell you about a couple of our more specific ones before we move on. So first, if you look right over here, this is a flowstone or a frozen waterfall. Most of our formations are made from water dripping from the ceiling. That one is made from it running down the side of a wall instead. Something interesting about that particular flowstone is it has all of the most common minerals of our cave in it. They all give a different color to our rocks, so I'm going to point them out to you really quick, tell you what they are and what they do. This reddish-brownish part right here in the middle is iron oxide. That's the mineral that gives Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi mud its red color, also gives rust its red color. This yellow ring right around the outside of that is limestone. That's what the cave was made of originally before it was hollowed out, and there's still a lot left in here today. This white stuff over here on the left-hand side is calcite. That's the mineral that gives marble its white color. There's a lot of that on the inside of our formations. They're not made of marble though, they just have that mineral that gives them that white color. Some are actually black on the inside though. This black shell, or on the outside of everything that I just listed, is a mixture of manganese and magnesium. I want you guys to listen to me really carefully, okay? Raw manganese is a neurotoxin. Magnesium in high concentrations is a natural laxative. Don't lick any of the black rocks, guys, okay, please? Don't drink any of the water in here either, because it's got those same minerals in it, okay? Okay? This is called a drapery. It's a more specific type of stalactite that forms in the place where a wall and a ceiling meet. That is the second longest one in the entire world. It's about 30 feet long. The longest one in the world is around 80 feet long, pretty big difference. Ours is a little bit cooler though, because you can still walk under it. The other one is too close to the ground and you can't go under it anymore. Looking at it from this side, you probably think that's a huge, thick chunk of rock. Not really. Draperies tend to grow in sheets that fold over and fuse with one another. So at the very thickest point of that 30-foot long formation, it's just gonna be a little bigger than your average school notebook. It's about that big.
Wow.
At its very thinnest point, it's gonna be as small as a sheet of paper. So what you guys can do for me, you can take that path under a drapery to see how thin it is from the bottom.
They were given a thing called ammonium nitrate. You gotta have ammonium nitrate, you gotta have sulfur, and you have charcoal.
Can you rent this place out for hide and go seek?
No, you can rent it out for camping though. That's like a thing that we let people do. I think if you have to have a pretty big group to do it. I think it has to be at least 15 people. But you can rent out the cave for a night. You guys can sleep down here. That's what all these little tents put up around are for. All right, I'd like to introduce you guys to Bob. Everybody say hey, Bob.
Hi, Bob.
Bob is one of my favorite coworkers here at the Caverns. Don't tell anybody else. He works very hard. You can see he has worked himself to the bone. We felt really bad for him because he was working so hard. So I talked to my manager. He agreed we could give him a huge raise. Thanks, guys. I'll be here always. All right. So Bob is modeling for us here something called the Copina burial style. This is a commonly used burial style by local Creek natives who would use specific parts of this cave as cemeteries. I think I briefly mentioned earlier this was the sacred cave to the natives. This is one of the reasons why, because they would use it as burial grounds. The other reason is because they believed their ancestors were born out of the stones in the cave. They gave it a special name, calling it Nane Hamga, which means fathers from the hills. That's part of the reason they used it as burial grounds too, to return them to the rocks they were born from. So, what they'd do when a loved one would pass, they'd build a big wooden structure like this one, usually out in a field somewhere. They'd leave a body on top of it, out in the elements, until it looked a whole lot like Bob does. Then they would take apart that skeleton and bury it in a clay pot or a wooden basket like these right over here. This was used so often because it was very space efficient. They could fit entire generations in the same spot, just stack the baskets on top of one another and bury them like that. So the reason I'm telling you about this is because in 1965, we were working on opening this as a proper show cave. We had an archaeological dig poking around in here, making sure it was safe for us to take our tours to certain areas. While they were digging around up here, they found 5 skeletons buried in that Copina style. There were 4 adults and 1 child. One of the adult skeletons, based on the length of its femur, which is this bone right here, was estimated to be about 7 feet tall. I'm about 5 feet tall for comparison, I'm 5'4". I don't think I could reach all the way up to how tall 7 feet would be. They did a bit of research. That was the family of a very well-loved chief of the area, whose name quite fittingly meant touch the clouds. Chief Touch the Clouds and his family were out on display as part of our tour where we found them until around 1995, when our new owner, Alan Mathis, thought that was really disrespectful to have out. So he wrote an apology letter to some of the natives that still lived around here and invited them to come back down and bury these bodies again. They happily agreed to do so, but the ceremony was so private, Mr. Alan Mathis wasn't allowed to attend it. So we're not completely 100% totally sure where those bodies are in the cave today. We're just assuming they're up there again somewhere, which is why we don't take our tours up there anymore. You guys can walk through this pathway up here to the right for me. That'll take you through our column. I think we picked up the stick right over like the past week. I think we mixed it. Alright. Y'all look right here. Say cave on 3. 1, 2, 3. Alright. I can get one on your phone as well if you want. Just in case the printer is like still broken.
Wow.
I did a few of them because my hands are a little shaky.
Cool, isn't it? How neat is this?
They're out in here.
Yeah. And we were never seen again. I just said, and we were never seen again.
Because they couldn't disrupt the normal stuff, so they added some plaster. But yeah, good eye.
Yeah, I just saw it over here and I put it.
They can do a flash on.
Claustrophobia freak out when
Oh yeah.
you're back there.
This place is great.
It's amazing.
Yeah. The ceiling is mind-boggling.
I missed the part where you said they reburied the feet, so where was that?
But I like how you're given free time to kind of.
Yeah.
And they do it through the, I mean, they had to dig through the floor.
Up there, like we do still have a few places that have like the natural muddy flooring. There's more of it in the back than up here in the front. But we do still have a few areas up there that were mostly untouched by the pathways. Obviously, it's used to have the original burial site on there.
You want to wrap it?
How many miles of like
Sure.
tour guides have you guys been into?
Alright, so a solid chunk of the remaining 12 miles
Do something.
is about this big around. So,
Inside of this place is astounding. This cave goes on for like 12 miles. It's like, wow.
Video does not do this justice. Oh, there's a creek. Man, let me find my own cave. It'll be on. Headlines will read, idiot landowner gets lost in his own cave. Lost, huh?
Alright, so you guys remember up at the front next to the leaching vat, I mentioned that those soldiers dug themselves a well down here to get their water and get their gunpowder? There you go. The only thing that we've done to it is make it a bit shorter. When it was dug originally, it was around 16 feet deep, so they could reach a natural spring and get their water from that. They don't need to reach natural water because we have this awesome thing called indoor plumbing nowadays. So we shortened it to about 6 feet deep instead. Makes it a bit easier to get our donations up. We don't need to make gunpowder down here anymore, so we use that as a charity well instead. People can toss in donations. Every couple months, one of us will come down here, we'll fish up the money that's at the bottom, we'll count it up and give it to local schools and local charities that need it. Kind of related to that well, when we go back there in just a minute, you guys are going to see a waterfall. So this is the very first officially documented cave in the United States. In 1796, a man named Benjamin Hawkins was sent down here by President George Washington to explore and document this cave. In the letter he sent back to the president while he was describing the beauty in here, he mentioned that waterfall. Again, that was in 1796, but in 1864, by the time the soldiers got down here, they had to dig that well to get their water. So the waterfall must have dried up by then. We're still not totally sure what year that was. Would have been sometime in between those two, though. Naturally, today, it is still dry, but we have technology. We've got a pump system connected to it. So it's like natural-ish. It's where it was originally, but it is pumped water.
It was actually Benjamin Hawkins' grave we went to, right?
We saw Benjamin Hawkins' grave.
If you scroll way, way, way back in our videos, you'll find Benjamin Hawkins' grave.
He was connected to Andrew Jackson, remember? And then he made the road.
Yeah, he tried to help the...
He tried to help the Indians, the white states.
Yeah. Because he saw what was coming. It's like a frosted cinnamon roll. Is that?
There's a thermostat.
Oh. Constant 60 degrees?
Okay, so a couple of points of interest back here. First of all, no, we're not going down these stairs. So this used to be a part of our tour. We blocked it off around 1995 for a couple of Second, probably one of the bigger reasons, one of the parts of our tour that we had down there was time navigating through it. So down this left pathway right here, about 15, 20 feet or so past where my light doesn't quite reach, there is a hole that is 35 feet straight down that we used to show to people on our tours. And that's a little bit of a hazard, so we don't really go down there anymore. So, really quick, if you were to put a light up against the rock, nothing
You see where it says Talladega 12 miles?
Yeah.
But this cave is very dense in limestone rocks, which are not very dense at all. This is the least dense rock in the world. So if you were to put that same light up against a piece of limestone instead, your light can just bounce around through the inside. I've had a couple of people say it's kind of like when you put your fingers over a light bulb. I don't have anything else to say, guys. Back here. We got one more.
I want to see the 35-foot hole.
Sign a waiver.
Right. This place is awesome.
Are you the last one back there?
I didn't see anybody behind me. You want me to go check and make sure?
I might get it.
You were just hoping for an excuse to run back there.
I was trying to be
A goody goody.
professional and
awesome
helpful.
kid. Get more cave time.
This.
Let me go with you. Show me the hole.
I hate it when there's like some cool 35-foot hole in the bottom of a cave and they won't let you see it.
I would do this again.
Oh yeah. Me too. This is Childersburg. We just left Childersburg.